But we begin tonight with the former president's crime syndicate. Trump White House aide Peter Navarro is, as of today, locked in a federal prison. Day one of a 4-month sentence. Before turning himself in, Navarro held a press conference at a strip mall parking lot down the street from the facility. He was convicted of contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with the January 6th committee. He even asked the Supreme Court to help him avoid prison time as he appealed his conviction, but ultimately he failed. And now he's in prison, making him the very first Donald Trump senior aide to serve time in connection with the coup plot. Trump has to be afraid watching one of his top aides getting locked up. Though over the past couple of years, the cells have been filling up with these guys. Roger Stone, Michael Cohen, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos, Steve Bannon, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Alan Weisselberg, his very own Trump organization, fined more than $1 million for tax fraud. All the president's men now have criminal records. Or rather, all the 4 times indicted, twice impeached, adjudicated sexual abusers men. In that list of Donald Trump's very best people, I mentioned Paul Manafort. Remember him? If you've been following us during the MAGAification of U.S. politics, then you certainly would remember Manafort, the key aide who seemed to appear out of nowhere to run Trump's campaign for free. He actually had some legit D.C. cred as a Republican consultant with ties to Presidents Bush and Reagan. During the Reagan era, he founded the Washington-based lobbying firm Black, Manafort, and Stone. The Black being Charles Black and the Stone being none other than Roger Stone, the Trump foot soldier and Nixon zealot who would one day get pardoned by Trump for multiple felony convictions. Stone is the one you see there in the center. Manafort is on the left. Per the Washington Post, one of Manafort and Stone's first clients was a New York developer named Donald J. Trump, brought into their portfolio by Stone, who'd met him through the notorious Gotham lawyer Roy Cohn. You really can't make this stuff up. But as all of this firm stuff was happening, Manafort cooked up this side hustle that eventually blew into quite the lucrative gig. But not necessarily one you wrote home about, because Manafort's specialty became working for literally the world's worst people. He was this mercenary lobbyist. One of his clients was former Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, who hired Manafort when he needed an image boost. The year after Marcos hired Manafort in 1986, Marcos won the country's presidential election thanks to rampant voter fraud. And his wife Imelda became famous for shoe hoarding while her country went broke. The dots are all connected here, right? But get this, Manafort was also a lobbyist for the opportunist dictator of then Zaire, the current Democratic Republic of Congo, Mobutu Sese Seko. Manafort functioned as Mobutu's de facto PR guy, and Mobutu, like Marcos, was a bad guy. In this 1989 article, The Washington Post writes of Mobutu, he keeps coming back to Washington with his hand out, and Congress keeps filling that hand in spite of the human rights abuses in Zaire and the inexplicable lack of progress by the country under his reign. The Republican administration winks at Mobutu because he has been a cooperative ally in Africa, and those are in short supply. But some Democrats are fed up with paying for a corrupt and abusive dictatorship. Now, remember, Manafort also helped steal the Ukrainian election for a Putin ally. And he went from doing that to working for Trump. And despite all of these people he worked for, dictators accused of human rights abuses and who lived lavishly as their people starved, it was Trump he took the fall for. And now, supposedly, Manafort is back, with Trump eyeing him for a 2024 campaign role. The timing? Very interesting. Trump is bringing him back at a time when he desperately needs money. Cough, cough, Tish James and the New York civil trial. And Manafort is the who are you going to call guy when you desperately need cash or to steal an election so that you can become president and use the presidency to enrich yourself and your family. The man lives lavishly himself. He owns a $15,000 ostrich feather coat. He's friends with dictators and the oligarchs no one has ever heard of. Has them on speed dial, I'm sure. And during his 4-decade career, he, well, kind of became an oligarch himself. Joining me now is Michael Isikoff, investigative journalist and co-author of Find Me the Votes, all about the Georgia the Georgia crisis. And we're going to bring you back to talk all about Georgia because it's a whole mess down there with that prosecution. Talk to me about Manafort, because he also kind of played ball in the Trump campaign with a Russian spy.
Yes, he did. I mean, look, I'm having flashbacks to 2016 right now. I mean, Manafort was sort of the first red flag when I and other people started reporting into the Trump world's ties to Russia. You had Trump, of course, who was saying all these nice things about Vladimir Putin while he was trying to do a business deal in Moscow. But when he brought Manafort in, that just raised all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
Manafort, as you pointed out, had been the political consultant for years for Viktor Yanukovych, who was the pro-Putin president of Ukraine at the time, or up until 2014. Yep. The Maidan uprising took place, and
the Orange Revolution, they called it.
The Orange Revolution, and he flees to Moscow. That had been, so Yanukovych was Manafort's main patron for years. And all the money from the Party of Regions, which was Yanukovych's party, came from oligarchs who were close to Putin, many of whom Manafort had all these ties to. Oleg Deripaska, a name from the past. I'm sure you remember. I mean, he was a business partner of Manafort while he was considered one of the 2 or 3 oligarchs closest to Vladimir Putin, had all sorts of suspected ties to organized crime. The U.S. government wouldn't let him in the country as a result of that. And here's Manafort not only doing business with, not only representing him, but they did business together. And then they fell out. And this is what really got me. This is May of 2016. I discovered that Deripaska, the pro-Putin billionaire, is suing Manafort in the Cayman Islands because because millions of dollars in their business deal disappeared. So at the very moment that he gets hired by the Trump campaign, he's in hock to a Russian oligarch who was tied in with Vladimir Putin.
And so the giving over of non-public campaign data to someone who turns out to essentially be a Russian spy. That, and also when he then takes over the Trump campaign, changing only one thing in the Republican platform, which is to remove the plank in the Republican platform for support for Ukraine. Putting all that together, Donald Trump is now desperate for money. And the only way that he can stay out of prison is to become president. Is it suspicious to you that he's bringing this specific guy back in who has ties to Russian cash and he helps steal elections?
Look, I think it's going to be suspicious to a lot of people. Let's go back to the Senate Intelligence Committee report, which was, you know, they spent years investigating this bipartisan report, and they concluded that Manafort, because of one of his closest associates was this guy, Konstantin Kilimnik, who was viewed by the FBI as a Russian intelligence asset. Manafort is meeting with him while he's chairman of the Trump campaign and sharing internal polling data with him at the Grand Havana Room in New York. Senate Intelligence Committee report described this. It said Manafort was a grave counterintelligence threat. Who was the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee at the time that report was released?
Was it Marco Rubio?
It was Marco Rubio. So one question, you know, you and others might want to ask of Marco Rubio, is he comfortable with somebody who he declared to be a grave counterintelligence threat working for the Republican nominee for president?
Michael, you know his answer will be whatever Trump wants. Whatever Trump wants. Michael Isikoff, a fantastic journalist. We're going to bring you back to talk about Georgia in that case. Thank you very much.
Love to do it. Thank you.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Get me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the All-Star. General!